Well, you took me right back to my childhood when my sisters used to call me Dr. Spock. Because I'm the youngest in the family. So anyway, after 3 circumnavigations around the bloody airport, I finally got here and getting pulled up by the federal police. Yeah, big sigh of relief because I still get a bit of anxiety just shoots through the roof when I see them uniforms. And when I pulled out the photo of me and the Southern Commander standing together, they said, "Oh, okay, Uncle Ringo, we'll see you later." All good. So I got here, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Yeah, he said he called her by her first name too. I said, yeah, I'm on a first name basis with her too, brother. So yeah, they let me go and so anyway, my name's Uncle Ringo Terry. My birth name's Ronald Herrick, but I was born in 1964 when the Beatles come to Melbourne. And all them bloody nurses were going crazy and they'd all get arrested these days, wouldn't they? But yeah, so all the nurses at the hospital called me Ringo and it stuck. So that's that story. I just like to, pay my respects and acknowledge all our old people. That's a beautiful sacred place here. And, I'm here for the lives of a handful of people that remained in this environment around the late 80s, and all the black ones rounded up from Victoria as we know it, and driven off their lands and had to make way for all the sheep and the cattle and all these new people on our land. And passing all our sacred places on the way to our new home on country down to Corondoke. Seeing other people arrive from the west, from the east, from the south, and from the north. Even if they were your mortal enemy, you were thrown into these stations with these people. But from these stations, this is where the majority of the Indigenous population of Victoria now arise from. So it tells a story within itself there. Why is that so? Because vast numbers of our people were wiped out here. This landscape, if you look at it and if you do your sums, it's a beautiful landscape. It's a scrub country. It's tucker, it's bush tucker country. We never, ever needed or wanted for anything before the arrival of the Europeans, to our shores, running from the heart of darkness and searching for the heart of light. They certainly found it here, And then they tried to switch places with us and call us the criminals. Like, I got arrested when I was 10 years old riding a mini bike, and they charged me with unlicensed driving. And that was the beginning of my torment and my torture, I got taken from my family because I didn't have a license at 10 years old. And it changed the course of my whole entire life. That moment in time. I got taken the day, not long after my father died. He died the day after being best man at my brother's wedding in Dandenong in 1974. I was taken from a family before that because of that driving incident. I'm the youngest of 7. I had to come home for that wedding that weekend. I got a little bit of weekend leave from my foster carers and came home and attended the wedding. I was 10 years old. However I was saying it. And then I had to go back on the Sunday. It was on Saturday. It was a beautiful day like today. All the mob down from Gippsland and all over. And had to go back Sunday, and then I always thought that the accident happened on the return journey after dropping me off, and what I fabricated or manufactured from that owning the guilt and the blame, which is a fix of the journey and my previous actions and so my pa passed away there like that, and before I knew it, I was in institutions, maximum security up at Parkville with all the worst criminals in Melbourne, and horrendous things happened to me there. For riding a mini bike, water the state. I met all my mates. Found out how to steal a car properly. Found out how to put a needle in the arm, and I liked the feel of that. I liked how it felt. I liked how it made me feel, as opposed to how I was already feeling, like empty, gutted, dead inside. As a child, as a 10-year-old child, come on. Years down the track, relationship breakdown, all the stuff that goes with addictions. See you later, children, and then found that new tribe in the city. 8 years of homelessness on the streets of Melbourne, bloody cold. I used to lock myself in the high-rise laundries and turn the blower on the dryer just to keep warm at night time and lock the door so a security guard couldn't get in and kick you out. I managed to muster up the strength I had left back in 2018 to drag myself up out of the gutter and out of the darkness of my addiction. And after multiple attempts at recovery, I finally put my head down and gave it my best shot, because I wasn't getting any younger. This is in 2018, and I made a Odyssey house for the 11th time, and I knew I needed to graduate that program, so I allowed myself to become vulnerable, and I surrendered, and I allowed myself to begin to be challenged, and I began to understood what relationships meant in my life, and the nature of those relationships, and which ones were important and which ones I needed to put some work into. I got an understanding around my emotional ability and abilities, and how to regulate. I'll put that into play this morning. And sometimes you just have to breathe and be calm, and don't feed off others' anxieties. But I got Hep C from all that, and one of the blokes said to me when I first got it back in 1989, 90, somewhere around there. I was diagnosed in 94, that's right, yeah. And I thought it was the end of the world, like back then in 1994, like they said, that means you got HIV, Ringo, like the black fellas on the streets, and all the other people. I didn't speak to anyone about that, about how I felt and my fears, the fear that of the unknown, basically. And you know, I started life as a carrier, and then all those little interactions, like try not to cut yourself, or being aware of your shavers or your toothbrushes, and all that anxiety until you learn to manage and get a manageable understanding of the illness that you've just inherited. And yeah, it was pretty. I'm pretty switched on, you know. Like I'm a pretty smart black fella. I'm still standing here today, testament to that. But I was in a bit of a pickle over this one. Like I really didn't know. Did I give it to my wife? Have I given it to my children? Have I given it to my sister? What have I done? And then that HIV aspect, like you've killed your father. What are you doing? So you know, something had to give. Something had to give. Relation breakdown. And I smelt that smoke of that fire one day in 2004. And I made my way to Camp Sovereignty and immersed myself in the culture, and that's where I started to heal for the first time from all of that. And I went and done the time and graduated from Odyssey finally, and got my driver's license for the first time, job back. You know, my relationships are a lot stronger with my children now. I make them important. They know I'm available for them. It absolutely terrifies me, the thought of going back to that life and just losing everything that I've worked so hard for. So now I've been given another opportunity to run a healing gathering place right next door to the Fitzroy Police Station, which is why I'm really excited to be here today, because my people are from Smith Street. They're the the problematic community that drink and drug on the streets and don't have lives and don't have people that care about them and are not worthy to stand amongst us, you know? I turn that shit on its head and I look it straight in the eye and I embrace my people now through what I've learned. They don't have time to go to rehab. They don't have the patience for a detox. You know, they're not ready for that yet. And when their time comes, they'll be ready. But what we can do in the meantime is you know, help to facilitate people. You know, we don't get funding by the government, but we help, you know, fill out simple little things like, you know, doing your stolen generation redress package. We'll sit down with people and just fill out the 8-page document and you know, as well as they can recollect of where it was in that little square box, and then, you know, with all the other sort of details and your IDs, we sort the IDs and that, we fast track that from the registry for them. And they say to me, I've done 6 so far this year, you know, and they say to me, Ringo, if it weren't for you coming to me with this, I would never have thought of doing this. And I said, well, you know, I still stand with you, even though I'm over here now. And they said, you know, we're so happy that you're the one that's finally making a stand for us. And so, you know, it's about this idea of a camp for late February, in short, to kick things off for the new year, and for us, because it's such a long-lived issue in community, I'm targeting 15 of the people that have the longest lived experiences here and haven't been to country and haven't had the opportunity because they were just overlooked or it was just too much hard work for people. So we've selected 15 people and I'm actually going to put their names on the seats on the bus. Now, we operate on a 3.5 days a week, and it started out as an artsy sort of a space and it's evolved into this gathering, healing place. So, none of these people have got their NDIS packages. Again, I don't think any of them know about, this initiative, and I'll be happy to, continue to network with people. But the next 12 months for the city of Yarra is just going to be amazing. We're talking about, people getting their learners permits for the first time in their lives, and those first aid certificates, and linking people up to the appropriate services and not just referring them on, but walking with them, and taking them down to open place, and we got one guy who's losing his eyesight, and these other people cater for those forgotten Australians from those people. So we're doing what we can in a problematic area, but does it, we bring them back from the camp, and there'll be workshops at the camps, relevant workshops, and there'll be a check-in every night, and we'll come back and we'll continue to nurture their growth and this journey that they've chosen to undertake. But it's got to be, you've got to be prepared to walk side by side, at least for the first 3 months, with people like this. That's how long it takes just to gain the trust. But I'm already over that, because so we get back, and then we start to explore and unpack the reasons around why people engage in certain types of behaviours, and simplify that and say, at the end of the day, it's only a certain set of behaviours that you've inherited along the way in your journey. And it's not who you really are. You've done that for a reason. And we all know that story, and that the addiction is opposite connection and all that. And but there's a real opportunity here. I see a really clear opportunity here to assist that community to begin to embrace their culture, cement their cultural identity as to who they are in the Aboriginal world, their totem, their place in their tribe, their place in their family, all these matters of importance for an individual. We'll be, manufacturing the dilly bag in the cultural toolkit upon return. We'll be screening, some massacre documentaries from Gippsland, to strike that fire and that conviction in these people, and start giving them a reason to want to live their lives again. I knew when I got my learner's permit at the age of 55, it was one of the most amazing moments of my entire life, and I want to be there when they light that fire for the first time, because it's going to light the fire within, and that inner warrior is going to emerge, and we're going to do that blackfellow way. So I think it's a really sensible plan, a 15-seater bus, 4 facilitators, bloody food trailer, free workshops, cultural activities, bit of fishing, but a lot of reflection and a lot of sharing and beginning to unpack what we need to unpack to begin the momentous journey for the next 12 months of healing and recovery for our people. So that's where I'm at. I'm getting over up here, so I think my plane lands soon. So I'll be like a beetle and fly out of here. I'd just like to, again, thank you for your efforts in tackling a difficult problem, and there's any way that you fellas can throw some money our way to help to facilitate this camp for these people. This is where I'm at, on my knees, begging people for money. 20 grand to facilitate this camp, 15 a door, But the outcomes, you can't put a price on that. I'm on fire for this. I'm bloody tired, but I'm on fire for this. So I'll leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. And as a survivor, I just wanted to congratulate myself. And, I'll just say in language and pay my respects to all old people, our neighbours, Wurrundjeri, Bunurong, Tanarong, and Gunnock, and people, my mother's people from Far East Gippsland. I'll just say in language, Wurundjeri, Yemen, Kundibi, Memory Delegates, which translates to welcome to our beautiful country here today, ladies and gentlemen. And, may Holy Spirit bless you all with love, kindness, and peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a welcome to country, but much more than a welcome to country. And I think for me, it really highlights, number one, you've reminded us about the importance of the individual and the individual's journey. And I think you mentioned that a couple of times. And I think it reminds us of why we're here and what the work we're trying to achieve for people, for an individual who's got a journey which may really vary, and that we've got to keep that central to all the work we do. So I thank you for giving us your personal story, which I think is always tremendously difficult. So thank you for being so generous with your personal story, which I think, again, as I said, reminds us of why we're here. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for also reminding us of all the kind of the importance of partnership, which is what this is all about, the ECA partnership, the importance of partnership as well, that we will not do this as individuals. We have to be having really strong partnerships, and that these things aren't going to change overnight. We're not going to be successful tomorrow. We're not going to be successful in a month, but we've got these long journeys and partnerships that we have to work and walk together on that journey. So thank you. In your welcome to country, you might not have realized, but you put it right central as to what our job is, what we've been trying to achieve, where we've had some successes, and we'll discuss those and we'll celebrate those today, because I think it's really important, as you've highlighted, to celebrate our successes, but also to acknowledge there's things that we need to keep on working on, building on, and that it's an ongoing journey. So thank you for a terrific welcome to country, and thank you for highlighting why we're actually all here today. So really appreciate it. And again, my apologies for your journey here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a direct family member from grandfather Barrick as well. My great-grandmother, Annie Borat, is his younger sister. And I just wanted to say, through that connection, I feel like I'll communicate with that old fellow. And he just wants me to tell people that this is the season of healing for this land. They know what we've been through as Aboriginal people over the last 200 years, and they know we're tired and exhausted, and our supporters have finally got our backs fully now, and all these talks of treaty and everything coming up. But again, I say it's an individual responsibility, just like the undertaking we took with the COVID pandemic. It was an individual responsibility to keep each other safe. So it's an individual responsibility to keep this culture alive. Thank you. I've got to get going.
Yeah,
So thank you very much.
Thank you again. So it's kind of seems incredibly facile to be about to talk about housekeeping after what we've just heard. But anyway, that's my job. And I'm never particularly a good housekeeper at the best of times, as people who know me well know. But I am to do this. So yeah, this is a hybrid event. And so it's being held in person. And there are also people listening to us virtually today. So for those people in attendance, there'll be roving microphones for when you've got comments. So please speak into those microphones so it's easy for people online to hear. And also for the people who are here with us virtually, we will be monitoring the chat that will be happening. So so just say that they'll be monitored, but particularly for people here, just remember that you have other people listening. So yeah, if you could make sure you speak into the microphones, please. We're trying to be as COVID safe as one can reasonably be, and I'm not going to bore you with it, but I'm sure many of you are aware that the Burnett has been really doing a lot of work in this space about trying to understand how we can be COVID safe without at the same time having measures that really impact on people in ways that are unintended. So we would really be asking for people to do a rapid antigen test. I thank everybody for having done that before coming today. There are masks available if you would like to be wearing a mask. There's hand sanitizer. As well, we have bought HEPA filters from the Institute, and so we've got HEPA filters in this room so that we're ensuring that the air is having the kind of clean air that we think is really important. And if anybody wants to talk to me about COVID and stuff that you could be thinking about doing, I'm more than happy to have a chat. But today, I'm really looking forward to focusing on EC elimination. So perhaps as well, just catch me to the side if you want to ask any questions, though. There's Wi-Fi available, and it's there, and I won't remember any of that. There are meals in the foyer, but I think dinner tonight is, I'm just looking, somewhere over there. So Liz, as I'm sure all of you have had dealings with at some stage or another, please ask Liz or Steph or somebody, but probably not me because that's not playing to any of my strengths. Bathrooms are over that way, and there's some emergency stuff. In the event of an emergency, do what you're told. Okay, we have a big agenda today. And you've all got it written in front of you, and for want of time, I'm not going to go into details, except to say, so that you can see what's going on. In day 2, you have a slightly later start, which is more pleasant, except for those on exec who have an earlier start. Except, as I said, I actually do think this is really important that we think about what today is. And number one, it's a celebration. And it's a thank you from the Burnett and for all of the people involved in the partnership, to you as our partners for really having been engaged in this for the last 3 years. So I just want to, I'll say it a few times, but I would like to say thank you to everybody who's been involved. It's been fantastic. It's been really, I think, valuable, and we'll hear from all of you as to how valuable that's been. So that's probably the first thing, is to say it's a celebration. It's also something to say that the journey has not finished, and also to think about what we learned from the work we've done over the past 3 years, to say, where do we go forward to? So that's another really important component as well. And particularly in acknowledging, this was all happening during COVID, which made life really difficult for people individually. It made life difficult for the communities that we were working with, and it made life difficult for all of the people who were doing that work as well. So just to acknowledge that despite COVID, the efforts that people put into. And finally, which I'd like to also thank and really acknowledge Paul Ramsay Foundation, who provided one of the largest philanthropic donations to our sector. I think it is possibly the largest philanthropic donation to our sector for this kind of work, where they essentially trusted us to say we wanted to get a partnership together, a national partnership of work going, and allowed us to do that in a way that, to be perfectly honest, no other funders have ever allowed us to do. And they were incredibly supportive. As all of you in this room know, we've discussed it, they have reassessed their priorities. So they are not wanting to fund hepatitis C or B or other sort of similar things into the future. That's not sort of how they do their funding. So we didn't have the option to go back to them, which we'd been initially hoping to do. But all was not lost. So EC beyond the 2022. So for those that may not be aware, the Burnett Institute had the good fortune to kind of be able to capitalise on a company in the last 12 months or so, which has enabled us to then think strategically about some of the investment that the Institute is doing. And one of my roles at the Institute, as well as trying to eliminate hepatitis C, is to sort of think about some of those things strategically. So we requested critical funding support from the Institute to ensure ECA continues to support a coordinated approach to hepatitis C elimination. And there's a number of people in this room who have done a lot of work on that. And I'm not going to name specific names, except probably to acknowledge Elisa and Steph, who might not even be in the room at the moment, but they did a huge amount of work on this with others at the Institute as well. But importantly as well, you all did a whole lot of work on this. And we put to the board why they should continue to invest. So I took it to the Burnett executive and then to our board as to why they should continue to invest. And this was feedback from the meetings we've had, from the work you've done, and the meetings, particularly the meetings at this year's Viral Hep Conference, about the importance of why EC is important. And it provides a platform to deliver national stakeholders engagement support in a coordinated response, to help a coordinated response to hepatitis C elimination in Australia, strengthens collaborations and fosters opportunities to build new strategic partnerships, which are essential to attract ongoing funding, not for the Burnett, but for you guys, consolidates and expands the national hepatitis C network, and secures ongoing leadership and staff capacity in critical technical areas. And so this is sort of essentially from feedback from you as to what had gone well and not, is what we put to our board, is that we thought it was essential that we continue to get support, and knowing that Paul Ramsey had really been clear about that they would not be continuing to, and it's not just us, it's lots of sectors that they're not doing this kind of work. We told them about our impact, and that not only had ECA provided funding and the projects we did, but it had also managed to attract, through the partnerships, different groups had attracted different amounts of money. And we've got a list here, and we sort of got this information from people, but the difference of funding that came from government, from philanthropics, from community-based organisations that we'd managed to attract, which was what part of the partnership was all about, is that it wasn't that, and the argument that we'd put to Paul Ramsey back in 2016, 17, when we first heard we could get it, or maybe around then, was that this would be catalytic and that we'd be constantly trying to support through ECA people and communities to get further funding. So the board, as well, when we talked about what we would do, we said we'd continue to do what we've been previously doing in terms of the key focus areas. You can all read this slide, and we can give people these slides if you like. At the same time, we said we would be looking at what we were doing to reorientate or make sure that the focus in the key critical areas, based on the work and the fantastic work that you can see and that we'll hear today, how do we really sort of focus our work to get the best bang for buck? But pleasingly, they were very happy to invest. So I'm really happy to announce today that the Burnett Institute has, through our executive and board, approved ongoing funding for the ECA beyond the 2022 program. They've committed to around $1.3 million a year for the next 5 years, which is nothing to sneeze at, is what I would say. The idea is that the funds will support some of the key people in our programs who have been working on ECA to continue to provide that technical support to people, as well as to provide some funding each year for partner organisations. Now that's relatively, I'd love it to be much more, but we know also that if we keep on providing that technical support through the health promotion, through the evaluations, that if you have stuff, we can do these things, and we'll be having a lot of discussions over the coming 6 months as to how to make this work so that we can really value add to the organisations like I think we have been over the past. But essentially to say that, yeah, we have been able to secure ongoing funding. We plan to build on this and not make it stop there. But again, we want this to be a real partnership approach. But I would like to thank, it sounds a bit self-serving, but the Burnett board for their generosity, or the Institute, because it was, it's a large amount of money for our institute to invest in something where a lot of the idea of us, a lot of the money goes out the door. So thank you to all of you for your input into it so that we were able to do this pitch. And I look forward to continuing the partnership, and we hope that you do too over the next 5 years. But in the meantime, I really am looking forward to hearing a celebration of fantastic work over the last few years. With that in mind, I'm going to hand over to you, Lisa.
Thanks, everybody. It's exciting to be here in Tullamarine, back at the airport where we first started, 2018. For some of you who were here, I was much more nervous back then when we had set out to do this hugely ambitious project. And I'm so glad that Uncle Ringo was here to tell us a little bit about his story and remind us again why we set out to do this humongous project. And it's so nice to get that kind of reassurance that we're really here doing work that's important to people. I know sometimes it feels like a lot, and I was chatting to Carrie yesterday about how intense this work can be. Sorry, I've lost you, Carrie. There you are. And so it's really good to have that reminder. So I'm really happy to be able to stand here after 4 years and go through a bit of a highlights reel, and just kind of acknowledge the huge amount of work and energy that's been put into this project. As Margaret said, this is hopefully a celebration. I feel a bit nervous all of a sudden now talking about highlights. I've put together some sneaky slides in here. And for those that I haven't got approval for, if you see a bad photo of yourself up on the screen, don't worry. I've got a few of my own up there too. So for those who have actually joined online, I want to say hello. I'm not sure if Margaret, I may have missed it. Welcome to everybody online. There's a few people. Hopefully you'll be able to hear us, see us. And for those in the room, I know not everyone has been on the project for the last 4 years and you've joined at different times. So I'm really glad to be able to step us back in time and bring us back to where we are today. And hopefully you'll appreciate the journey. So as Margaret mentioned, we were funded initially by Paul Ramsey Foundation, and they were so gung-ho, and then they've had a bit of a switch in strategy, and so we've sort of dropped off a cliff with them. Nonetheless, we are so appreciative of the funds that they've provided and what it's enabled over the last 4 years. So these are the objectives that we initially set out to achieve. Really, it was focusing on getting testing and treatment up, ensuring that people identified with liver cirrhosis were linked to care and reducing their chances of developing liver disease and liver cancer, and then really setting out to build a national collaborative framework. And I think that's really where my focus has been as a coordinator of this project. And most of the team are sort of focused on the first two objectives, probably the more important objectives. And really the funding was meant to be catalytic and not kind of long-term, not sustainable. It was really designed to be 4 years, slightly transformative, and allow people to kind of use the money the way they need, and kind of a little bit more freedom than usually what comes with sort of contracts and tenders. And so we developed our structure. We've got a governance structure. We've had a huge amount of energy and time from all parts of the structure, including the executive. So I want to thank the executive. But really, most of the work has happened across the key components. The team are going to present today and tomorrow highlights from that. And I know that all the partners will get a chance to present their work, so I won't labor on this too much. And our approach really has been collaboration from the start. We've had a real key focus on measurement, because that's something as a research institute, that's sort of our main game. But we've felt that a lot of the work has been really supporting implementation on the ground. And for all of our partners, that's really where most of the energy has been, is really ensuring people are well supported to do the work that's important. And we're sort of here behind the scenes trying to help problem solve and provide that ongoing capacity building. So in terms of what we've been able to achieve, we've had some great successes. This is really not just the project, but Australia. And at the end of 2021, more than 95,000 people have been initiated onto treatment, which is really fantastic. So we're in a really great place. Woo! We're in a really great place, and I feel like that needs to keep being acknowledged, that we have achieved so much. And even though we've got 2030 sort of looming, and the next strategies will be the strategy to take us through to 2030, we know that we can do it. Like, we know how to do this work. We know the kind of jobs, tasks, what's needed. And I think it's really around maintaining and keeping that momentum, keeping that focus, and expanding and building on the work we've been doing. We know that the prisons play a huge role in delivering this treatment, and they can be a fantastic environment in terms of being efficient at delivering treatment, testing and treatment. But we know that treatment is declining over time. So some of the realities around declining testing and treatment mean that we do have to keep focused on new ways of doing things. So when things start to not work, it's time to pivot and change what we're doing. And I think that's where ECA Australia has been great, allowing people that freedom to do that pivoting, to kind of take stock, shift direction, and try something new. The challenges ahead are that really, while we've been really focused on getting testing and treatment up, we haven't necessarily had such success with keeping people who have developed liver cirrhosis sort of clear of the looming threat of liver disease and liver cancer. And we haven't seen a great decline in liver cancer rates that we'd like to see. And I think it's still kind of early days, but that's something we need to be focusing on. So this is a fantastic slide just because it's pretty, and it's got as many logos as you can fit on a slide without getting completely chaotic. This is just to acknowledge the huge amount of work, energy, time that all the partners have put into this project. We can still keep adding. I don't do the formatting, thankfully. I'm terrible at formatting slides, as you'll see later. But wow, what an achievement in terms of just kind of bringing people together and being able to have that national focus. I think it's been really fantastic. Some of the key achievements to date, I'm not going to go through these because we're actually going to spend the next 2 days together talking about all of this, but in a much more detail. So in one slide, these are some of the key achievements through ECA that I think has been really important. We've been able to sort of deliver health promotion, workforce development, evaluation, build on surveillance systems, and attract ongoing funding to hepatitis C. And I think there is a fear that as we get closer towards our goal, there'll be less and less appetite from governments, from philanthropy. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think we just need to get better at selling the story, making sure we're making it really clear the benefit that we're providing. And I think we'll be on track. That's my hope. So the next few slides are pretty much just like a walk in the park. Think about it as like a family photos slide deck. I'm going to walk us through. I'm not going to talk too much, but really for us to kind of visually be stimulated and enjoy the experience. So we've got It's Your Right campaign now up and running in every jurisdiction, and that is extremely exciting. And this is the fancy one that we get out for all our government, partners to say, look, if you go to the airport in Canberra, you'll see this. And right now it's still at the Canberra airport. It's up there for free. We're not paying for it. It's free advertising. So think about that. That's awesome. We've had amazing success at supporting 21 different projects across Australia, and all of them have been completed. And I think Jackie could probably just give herself a massive tick for the year. Hang a hat. Call it a year or 4. Maybe she's aged 75 years in that time. She's still got that, jazz in her hair, and that's what keeps us excited. 3, about to be 4. It's always great when these reports drop. I think everyone's sort of excited to see their data in there. Just the way it's been collated. I'm going to give a shout out to Anna for kind of being the, I would say, guru of data. She's really great at just being steady and calm, even when there's, huge amount of work that goes into bringing these together. And I have to say the improvements on the cover are very noticeable. I'm loving where we are, 2021 and 2022. I'm very excited for the next cover. So that is really exciting. New partnerships. The Aboriginal Health Strategy took a while to kind of get it up and running. And since Troy joined the team, I think we have gone great guns. And it's so nice to kind of stand here and think about where we were at the start, which was we didn't have an Aboriginal Health Strategy, and then it was added. And now we're just sort of building those partnerships. And I think the next 4 years will be really exciting. Thanks, Troy. And then Nick Scott, who I haven't seen yet, I guess he's arriving late, or maybe he's not joining yet, but some of the fancy footwork that Nick does is really kind of taking a whole bunch of our data, making sense of it, and then putting it into fancy graphs, telling a story. And this one's a really good one. This one tells us that for all the dollars we're investing in hepatitis C elimination, we are getting way more back in return. And that as of 2022, we should start actually getting cost savings of that investment. And that is really unimaginable, to think that we've been able to shift costs from disease management into prevention and actually now be saving dollars for government and for the public. This is a really good news story, and it's one that we'll keep telling. This is like one of those really high impact slides that you put in just for the board. So I just put it in here so everyone gets to see what the board likes to see. And for those who aren't aware, this is the team. So this is the full ECA project team. And these are some insights that I wanted to share with you. I'm not going to read them out. But what I've enjoyed is having a team with such diverse skills, having a team that spends so much time together, that we all know each other. That when I arrived this morning, everyone wished me happy birthday because they all knew it was my birthday today, which is really nice. Thanks. I couldn't think of a better way to be spending it. Maybe after a wine later, I'll tell you about what else I could have been doing. No. And now this is, oh, Nick, you just missed my, welcome, Nick. From little things, big things grow. And we started here, 2018, and then we got bipartisan. It seems so crazy I would say that word. I'm not political. So bipartisan support for hepatitis C elimination. And we had both the minister and both the health minister and the shadow health minister stand up and say, this is really important and we're committed. And we've seen that ongoing commitment, and we're excited that we will have the next national strategies out soon, and that we look forward to continued commitment for Hep C elimination. We started with an ugly logo, I'm going to say it, and then we got a new logo, we got a revamp, we got a website, and we got a YouTube channel. And for those of you that don't know Burnett, well, that is, I don't know if it's a good move, but it exists. Along the way, we of course had the COVID pivot. Now these, I'm going to spend a bit of time on these ones so everyone can see themselves. It wasn't pretty necessarily, and I would say the adjustment period took a while. It took a while for all of us to get online, to feel comfortable turning on the camera, then turning off the camera, totally fine. People eating in front of the camera, totally fine, acceptable to be eating while you're in a meeting. I think everyone sort of relaxed into the online environment. And I do want to say thank you so much to Steph and Melissa, who did so much work in extending people's contracts, in doing all of this work, because COVID did have an impact on all of our work. And we were able to get an additional year of funding from Paul Ramsey. And I reckon it was probably about a year of work to get those contracts extended. So I'm really glad that we got that extra bit of funding. I will say that we did get approval from everybody in this to record all of these. These were parts of our executive meetings, our project team meetings, and hence why I'm showing them. Online is the new normal. After we took a little bit of time to get more comfortable, and then everything was online, and actually you couldn't do anything in person. It was almost taboo. So today feels quite surreal to have everyone in the room. And if you want somebody to moderate, facilitate, or really just host anything online, then Jackie Richmond is your gal. And I think, as you can see the little photo in the corner here, I think she's done every single one of our YouTubes. So it's well rehearsed and practiced. This was a huge amount of effort to kind of turn what we would usually deliver in person into an online format. And I think we did it effortlessly from the outside. May have not looked like that from the inside, but on the outside, I think we did a really great job. And then there was the time when everyone thought more colors is more better. And I've not seen, I mean, people really turned on their PowerPoint slide game because everything was all of a sudden online. And I have to say, I really appreciated Wanada's effort because that is a beautiful slide. Like, I haven't seen that much content, that much color, and actually it makes sense. It's a really, really great slide. But the winner does go to Nick Scott for always making the most colorful slides, to putting the most amount of complexity into a slide, and then effortlessly explaining it that everyone in the room can understand it. So I'm setting the bar really high, Nick, and I look forward to your presentation tomorrow afternoon. And then we had some stories from the field. So I think probably year 2 to 3, we started hearing all this fantastic work about, you know, success stories, you know, that things were working and that people appreciated the work we were doing, and that we were getting buy-in from partners and we were getting buy-in from government. And we, you know, had all of this sort of groundswell. And I think this is probably the most exciting part, to kind of hear what's happening on the ground. And I think probably our urge to kind of bring people together always needs to be tempered by the fact that, you know, we're only hearing a little bit of the story. And we know that all of you here are coming with all your own stories, and there could be so much more shared. We'll get better at that over the few years. But I did want to just give a shout out to all the people kind of doing most of the work. And then people who skived off and took some time off to have a baby and didn't do any work over that period. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a highlights reel from my maternity leave, which was, I went and got married, not once, but twice. Once in Australia, once in the US. And for somebody who said they'd never get married, it was really a lesson in how you can change your mind. And when I came back to the role, I was like, am I even needed here? Did anyone even miss me? Thankfully, I've got my Hep C Terminator slide just to give me that sense of assurance that I'm useful, that I'm valuable. And as soon as I stepped back in my role, I was like, what am I doing in this place? This is the reality of my work. And this is what I had left behind. And now I kind of juggle in between. But I'm really glad that after such a long time, 4 years, we've come to a point where we can at least sit back and hopefully enjoy the next 2 days. I encourage you all to get to know each other a bit better. We haven't had time to kind of see and meet each other in person for so long. So please spend the time at the breaks, at the lunch, at the dinner tonight, just reconnecting with everybody. If you haven't met me, come say hello. I'd love to meet you. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge the impact that Jude Byrne had on ECA Australia. She just was such a force. She co-chaired the reference group on the health promotion campaign, and she coordinated the national peer network, and she really was the kind of rock behind the It's Your Right campaign. And I know she would be proud to see it up now. She'd probably be kind of chuckling to have it seen in front of the Canberra airport. She'd probably see it a lot. But yeah, I just want to acknowledge her tremendous energy and effort, and we do miss her dearly. Thanks.